Alright, hello everyone. Today we're going to be making some sheet dough. Now I made another video of making pizza dough before, but that was round balls and it was kind of overdubbed instead of me actually making it. So what you're going to need are, you're going to need 6 ounces of yeast. I like to use nice dry yeast, instant dry yeast. You can use wet yeast, but you would have to use more to compensate. I'm not going to tell you how much salt and sugar together you want to use, but just be aware that sugar kills yeast. So I'm going to show you a special trick we're going to do. You're going to need some vegetable oil. You can use olive oil or anything like that, but you're going to make your dough price really expensive. It'll taste a little bit better, but obviously you want to have your profit margin on that. And you're going to want, probably the best thing here, you're going to want high gluten flour. Now if you don't use high gluten flour, you're going to have some problems. It's bleached, bromated, enriched, all that good stuff. This is stuff you specifically designed for pizzas. If you just buy a generic high gluten flour from the grocery store, it's not going to work correctly. You got to get something from a distributor. And this is a 50-pound bag here. And then you're going to need about like 14 to 15 quarts of water. I'll talk about the water temperature here in a minute. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the spindle on top of our mixing machine here. Just give me a second. Now these dough machines are real cool. They have all sorts of attachments for them. They have dough spindle, they have a big egg beater. This is obviously an older model that has no gate on it. So you just got to be really careful when you use older versions that have no gate on it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pour our salt and sugar mixture in, and we're going to take all of our water. We're going to pour that right in there. And we're going to be careful that we're not going to get the water on the spindle. If we get it on the spindle, the dough will stick to it later. So we want to be careful that we don't have that on there. Put this up there. Now we want to take a mixer and we want to mix this around for about 2 or 3 minutes. The idea is we want to dissolve the salt and the sugar in the water. So we're going to stir it real good, let it sit for a minute, stir it again real good, let it sit for another minute. Do this like 2-3 times. Stir it around. There we go. Alright, now while that's dissolving, a couple of things I want to point out. So, like I said, this is an older mixer. Now, most dough mixers will use the first gear for the dough mixer itself. When you're getting up to like 4th gear, you're using like the egg beater or something. Don't fucking spin your dough at 4th gear. That shit's crazy fast. Like I'll show you how it spins here in a little bit, but when it gets up to 4th gear, it's ridiculous. It's not meant for dough making at all. So I would recommend, if you're gonna make dough, use it in 4th gear. We'll turn it on here. Now this right here is obviously just for a timer. We're just gonna time it manually. Some people like to time it using cigarettes. I don't smoke, obviously, so we're going to time this for 8 minutes when it starts making. So give this another stir here. There we go. So I stirred it up a couple times. Here you can see the sugar and salt should be dissolved. It's nice and cloudy. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in our yeast, and we're going to stir that right in as well. We're going to and then we're going to let that rest for a minute. Now just be careful with yeast here, because yeast is one of those things that can give you a yeast infection if you have an open cut. Honestly, a couple years ago, I've had a yeast infection in one of my fingers. Went to the doctor and they're like, what the fuck, why don't you wear gloves? I said, who wears gloves making dough? Come on now. But the water temperature, I didn't expressly explain that too well. But the water temperature actually matters for sheets versus ball dough. Since we're making sheets, we want to have warmer water. Depending on the climate, your temperature outside. Here it's the middle of the winter. It's actually pretty warm out today. It's like 40 degrees compared to what it has been. But so you want to use for sheets, you want to use between lukewarm and quite warm water. You don't want to use straight hot or anything. That's going to fuck up your dough. The idea is the warm water will activate your yeast. And with sheets, you want sheets to blow up a little bit. If you were making, because we're going to have them rise, if you were making round balls, you would want to use cold, or if it's the summer, like 70-80 degrees out, or you live in a tropical climate, You want to use like iced, like literal ice chunks in the water, and maybe even a little less of it too. Alright, now that that's sort of dissolved in there, we're going to put in our oil and give it one more spin. Now with the oil, we want to put some of that oil right on the spindle here. That'll help the dough not stick to the spindle later. And we'll get this one last stir. Put this behind me. That is stirred, and we want to put that flour right in here. And we want to start this bad boy right up. So hopefully I can get the flour in and show you guys. Probably not, but yeah. Now the flour, you want to make sure that it doesn't hit on the spindle either. Pull this up. There we go. Get as much of that flour in there as you can. Make sure it's not stuck in these bottom corners here, or even in the top corners. And then we want to start this, so we'll pull on the clutch. We'll have it spinning here, and we'll lift it up. Now you're going to hear a really weird noise once it gets all the way to the top. And it's going to kind of be a grinding noise. That's my cue to know when to stop. Like that. That's my cue. Now I'm going to go look at the timer real quick, so give me 1 second. So this will go for 8 minutes. Now I just took about a second here. But the coolest part of watching this dough come up is it going from the flour mixture, and you'll start to see it here in just a minute, where it's going to start to thicken up. It looks really cool. So I'll sit and record this for a minute. Now obviously you see the spindle coming around. Don't put your hands in there. That spindle will take your fucking arm right off, guaranteed. You're gonna see me do something a little crazy later, but that's why most of the newer dough machines have a grate on it, so nobody can stick their hands in it, and for safety reasons. Now you might not see it, but some of the flour is coming around the area and making a little smoke mess. But see how it's starting to form already? I think that's one of the coolest parts of making dough. Now it's only been like 2-3 minutes so far, but you see how it went from like this trashy goop, and now it's starting to get nice and smooth around the edges? That's what we're looking for. When it's all done, it's going to be smooth throughout on the edges. If you fucked it up, it will stay in a goopy state, and that's exactly what you don't want. Now while you're waiting for it, there's one other thing we're going to do. So we got a big ass dough table here. Since we got a 50-pound bag batch, we're going to make 14 half sheets and probably 14 or 15 full sheets. Depends on how much comes out. So we got set up with a scale here. Now you want, if you're going to do this, I like these update scales. Or what is it? Up late? I don't know what the fuck. I think it's update scale. Anyway, you want one of these update scales. We're going to go 2 pounds for the half sheets, and we're going to go 4 pounds for the full sheets. Now these have a nice top on them. You can obviously see we've used it quite a bit. These have a nice top on them that are easy to do dough on. If you're going to try do dough on like a digital scale, this is obviously not big enough for it. You could probably find a bigger digital scale, but these are the best. Now, sometimes these scales are really shit. What I like to usually do is hit the top of it and make sure it resets back to 0. Sometimes it'll be stuck on like 8 or something will happen to it. But anyway, so we're going to take some of the extra flour that you obviously are keeping around if you're making this kind of dough. We're going to spread it around on the table here. You don't have to get a huge covering on it, because the dough, if we did the dough right, it should not be sticky where we don't have to work, where it'll be hard to work with. So spread some of that around on the table, spread it with your hands. This will just help it from sticking on the table later. And I don't have to use the dough blade if I'm lucky. There we go. And we're going to still save that flour because we're going to need it again here shortly. See, now it's starting to look even smoother right there. It's looking really good. So we'll come back here when I'm ready to be done with it. Alright, so it's been the 8 minutes. You can see my dough looks really nice again. Like I said, nice and smooth all throughout, not sticky anywhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the bad thing. If you have a gate, this is probably easier with a gate, but I'm going to do it my way. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw some flour around the sides, because eventually this will start to stick. So throw some flour in there. Obviously I don't want to get my hand in the spindle. That would just be terrible. Now we're going to start to bring it down a little bit. I'm going to come this way. It's lowering, you can't really see it's lowering, but we'll turn that off, get that off there. shut this down so I don't hurt myself, and then I'm going to take the spindle right off. I gotta push it down into the dough here. Oh. Pull it out. Now you see that some of the dough, if I can some of the dough gets stuck to it. Not a huge deal. It's a little stickier to it tonight. I'll just pull. There we go. Just with this excess dough you got on the spindle here, just pull it right off. Throw it right in the box. Now it should feel nice and warm. It's a little sticky, but that's not too bad. As long as it's not like completely fucking sticky mess. Now usually my spindle would be a little better, but I was trying to rush it. Now this is a pain in the ass to clean once it dries on. So you can either clean it now while you have a second, or you can wait to clean it later. It sticks on real good and it becomes a pain in the ass, but I don't really care too much. Alright, so I got all the dough now. If I was strong, this is a 30-pound cast iron mixing bowl with 50-60 pounds of dough in it. If I was strong, I'd bring it up on this counter and probably work from the counter. But since I'm not, what I like to do is just fucking bend over and hope for the best. So what I want to do is, I've done this quite a bit, grab a handful of this bitch and cut. I want to get about 2 pounds. I want to get as close to 2 pounds as I can in one go. If you keep cutting multiple times, the dough gets a little weirder to use. So look, I'm right on 2 pounds. Take this, put it in a line over there, and then that's it until we do sheets. Just do the whole thing over and over. There's probably like 3 pounds there. Yep. You can take some of it off. It won't worry too much. There, and we just keep doing this until we get all the dough done. So I'm going to do the 14 half sheet balls first, and then I will show you how big a full sheet ball looks. Alright, so I got all the half sheets done, so I got the 14 here. And I'm going to show you how big a full sheet is. So we're going to pull a great amount of this dough up. I'm just going to cut, I think that's about 3 pounds. A little over. A little bit more. That's good. You can get over a little bit. It's better than getting under. So you can tell the difference between the full sheet and the half sheet ones. So I'm just going to cut the rest of these and then we'll show you what we'll do with them. As you can see with my flour technique, you can see all the flour around the edge. There's not dough around the edge. There's just a little bit in the bottom, which ain't a big deal. We're just going to scrape it here with our hands real quick. Now you might be wondering, how do you clean out one of these pots? Well, I kind of do it a retard way, so I'll show you that a little bit later. But I just like to scrape a little bit of it. You can do a better job, but I want to finish up the dough I got up here first. I got a little bit left over, about a half pound, 3/4 of a pound. You can make little bits of bread out of this. If you pull this apart and do like a 1/4 pound or even a half pound, you can let it sit with some plastic wrap on top of it. And if you slice it like bread, it works pretty good. I've done it before. But I got all my dough ready to go, so I'm going to show you here what I'm going to do with that in just a second. Alright, so now that we got it all here, I'm going to start with the first in, first out. So we want to start with our oldest half sheet over there. Now first thing we're going to do is get all the half sheet trays we're going to need. We're going to put 2 half sheets per tray, and once we get to the full sheets, it's going to be 2 per tray. So since we're doing 14 and 14, we want 7 half sheets and then 7 full sheets. So you're going to spray a little area on both sides here. You can leave the lid off of it. We're going to take one of our doughs. If you have a dough blade, obviously you can use that to get it up. I just use my hands. Now you'll see that the top's starting to get a little dry. That's not a huge deal, that's fine. And you can see in here that there's little bits of hairline cracks. So what I like to do is, if I grabbed it from the top here, I want to flip it over. I want this nice side here. And what I want to do is kind of indent the dough right underneath, kind of stuff it into itself. So I'm going to go around here, stuff it into itself. Now you see how the top is looking real nice and smooth over it? There's no hairline cracks in it or anything. That's what we want. If we start to get hairline cracks in it, we got to keep working the dough until it's gone. Alright, once we got it here, you can see I've been stuffing it in a little bit. I could probably stuffed it a little bit better. Now if this was round dough, what I like to do is mushroom it and then put it on our plate. Since this is sheet dough, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it down, face down, and I'm going to roll it like a fucking egg roll. I'm going to flatten it a little bit, And we're gonna put it on our half here. We're gonna do that for the, excuse me. We're gonna do that for the rest of the half sheets that we have over here. So let me grab another one of these, flip it over. Now you see, like right in here, this is really hairy. We don't want this to be in the top of our dough. What happens is that becomes a really, really thin spot in the dough. So we want to make sure we stuff it in really good and it becomes nice and smooth. Otherwise, later when you're working with the dough, again, that spot will be super thin, and you do not want that in your dough, especially when this is supposed to be a thicker dough. I love to show the other side of my hands while I'm doing this, but it's kind of a little hard with this thing. See if I can get it. I don't think I can stuff it real good from the other side. Like I said, with my hands, I'm just stuffing it right in the bottom here. Now it starts to hurt your hands once you get to the 4-pounders. It's not so bad with the 2-pounders, but the 4-pounders, whew, they'll kill your hands after a while. Roll it like an egg roll, flatten it down. Now, since we got these two ready, I'm going to put them right on the bottom here. Actually, I like to put them one up from the bottom. So right there. You can get 2 on each shelf for the half sheets. Spray this. This one's already done, so we'll put that there. Get another one. See, with my hands, I'm just kind of grabbing at the bottom. If you have a dough blade, you can use that, but some of the dough doesn't stick too well from it. So we'll just keep rolling it here. Try and put it out as best I can. Now if you get bubbles in this, you want to pop the bubbles. There's a little one right here, but that's not a huge deal. See it? You can see it better from this angle. There's a slight one there, but it's not a huge deal. If you get a huge bubble in it though, you got to pop that shit. Otherwise, again, it's just going to make another thin spot within the dough when you're cooking it later. Whatever happens in the start of something always fucks you in the end. If you've ever worked in a warehouse before, you know those people, distribution, they're picking. They send you garbage or the wrong item down to shipping, and then shipping's got to deal with it. And then it basically, you're just passing the buck and somebody gets fucked. So if you're the one that's going to get fucked later, then you don't want to pass the buck to yourself, obviously. Grab this one, flip it over. Now you want to do dough real quick because you see the tops starting to dry. You don't want those to dry out too much here. If they dry out, the dough dries out later, and that's not a good thing. So it takes me, what, like half an hour or so to do this. And that's because I go relatively slow. I could probably even go faster, but half an hour is like my speed. I usually watch movies. You usually set up your phone, watch a movie, fucking watch TV shows, and just kind of chill. I've even got really fucking hammered before while I was making dough. It's fun to do. Now the worst part is, if this was round dough, we would just make the dough balls, put them into a box, and then we'd be done. No, since this is sheet dough, we gotta let them rise for a while. Now that's the reason why we used warm water, because depends. Like I said, it depends on how warm the water you use, what climate you're in, but we gotta let them rise between an hour and a half to 2.5 hours. Usually 2 hours is pretty good. Sometimes you gotta go 2.5, 3 hours. I'll show you as they're rising what we want to look for to tell that they're done. So just take a note of kind of how they look now. They'll poof up a bit and they'll be really nice. But if, again, if that was round dough, and if you used warm water and round dough, you don't want that shit to rise. You don't want it to be really fucking huge. That would just ruin your fucking dough, and it would be a pain in the dick to work with. That's why you use cold water, or again, icy cold water. So like I said, I'm going to finish these up until I get to the full sheets, and then I'll show you how I can do one of those. As you can see, I got all my half sheets on. You can see that the one row has 2 on there. Just these 2 and not a separate set, so I just put it one above the other one. Generally you want to save space so they can rise and they don't hit the top of it. But you're going to do the same concept with the full sheets. Now you want to make sure these trays are real clean too. If they're not clean enough, like they got fucking crumbs or fucking sauce stuck on it, they got to be cleaned out. You can't just fucking use crumbed ones that just came out of the oven. So we're going to do the same concept. We're going to grab the dough. Now, the reason why I don't use the top is because it takes more time to fucking stuff it in. See all the hairline cracks that are still in there? That's going to take me quite a while to get them the fuck out of there. And then as I'm stuffing in, it's actually not taking me too long, but as I'm stuffing it in, more and more are just going to appear. I can see it clearly here, and there's a little bubble, but it's not a big deal. Actually, it's not too bad, but I like to, again, go underneath. Whichever side makes it easier for the top to be nice and smooth. Same concept, flip it over. Now you can see on this one, my bottom's a little more closed off than the other one. And we're just gonna fucking roll it again. Slap at it. See, now I'll show you the bottom's closed tight. Put it right on the tray there. Now you can see how big it is compared to the tray. I'll put a second one on. That should rise a little bit, and that should be a nice size. Now if it fucking rose and it's taking up half the tray, that's garbage. It's not gonna fucking work. So let me grab another one. We'll just go from the bottom here. Flip it over. Again, stuff it underneath really, really, really good. Doesn't look like I'm stuffing, but I am. Stuff right inside of it. And this 4 pounds here, this is a workout. I got my arms like straight out, stretched here. It fucking kills me later. My fucking knife out of the way. And again, we'll just fucking roll it. Roll it nice and tight, flatten it, call it a day. Now occasionally you'll have a little bit of hairline cracks in here. See this? Not really what we're looking for. I would prefer if it was a little smoother, but that's okay. As long as it's not a huge one, it's not a big deal. And then I just got a bunch more to go. So we'll come back once it's all done. Alright, so we got all our sheets down. They're on there. So what we're going to do is, on your rack, you can either use a metal rack, wire rack. I assume if you're at a restaurant actually making dough, you probably aren't watching this video unless it's for fun. But if you're using a wire rack, good on you. I like the metal racks because once these fuckers break, you can just put a screw through it and it's good to go. Well, a wire rack, I would assume the whole rack would be fucked. Now, what we want to do is, we don't want these to get, we pull the sheet down over the top of these because we want this to be covered from the air. Now what I like to do is, at the bottom of it, tighten it really good. And then I'm going to go up above my sheet here. And it's tight to the bottom and air shouldn't be really going through it. I mean, it'll go underneath and whatever, that's fine. But if you left them out like without having them covered, even in the refrigerator, the air would just fucking make the top of it look really nasty and it'd dry it right out. You started to see some of that when I was making the dough, and you'll see it later once I actually start pushing these out. But we don't want them to air too bad. Now you got to put them in an area that's pretty warm. Unfortunately, the kitchen is not that warm because the exhaust hoods, they always suck heat out. So I got to bring it out front here. And we'll put it underneath one of our heaters. It's about like 65 degrees out, or excuse me, 68 degrees out here. If you did it in anything less than 68 degree area, it's gonna take a long time to warm up. So we're gonna leave that for about 2 hours or so. Now you might be wondering, look at the fucking mess you got here. So we're just gonna clean this up real quick. The best way I recommend it for those who've never worked with dough before, you don't make dough wet to clean it up. You have to fucking scrape all this shit on the floor first, and then whatever rag you use, we'll use a dough blade to just fucking scrape this table. Whatever rag you use, you can't fucking use it again, because if you try to, it's just gonna be awful. Obviously that should be obvious, but you never know. If anybody was curious to try it, your rag would be just fucking disgusting at this point. Now you might be wondering, why put it on the floor? Well, I'm gonna have to fucking sweep anyway, so it doesn't really matter where I put it. So let me get this part cleaned off, and then I'm going to show you how I clean the dough pot. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hose, spray a little bit inside of it, and then I'm going to get some nice soapy hot water, which I have going behind me, and the metal scrub, and I'm just going to kind of scrub the shit out of everything, and it'll come off pretty easy. Where's the metal scrub? I'll even show you. As long as you just make it a little wet, it'll come off pretty easy. I gotta get a rag first, and whatever rag you use, like I said, it's gonna get destroyed, so get a little wet. What's this? Just scrub the come right off. So, and just be careful getting this shit down your drains. We have capture guards everywhere pretty much, so this shouldn't be going down our drains, but just scrub them and make it look real nice. Make it look real nice and pretty. Now, if you do use a dough mixer, do not put the spindle back on top of the dough mixer. Now, I used to do that a long time ago. We used to, when we were done, put the dough pot back in it in its little station there, which is fine. And then we put the dough spindle back on the machine. Now, what that does actually is it puts a little bit of unnecessary weight on the dough mixer, and it's really not good for it. It shouldn't be on there like that. So I'm just going to clean these up. So now you might be wondering, everything's clean, all the pots are cleaned out. I even cleaned the sides of this. See, there was lots of flour on it, now it's gone. The floor is nice. And you might be wondering, now you got an hour and a half still, what are you going to do? Well, if you're watching this and you're actually learning how to make dough, you're probably doing it in the morning. So if you got time to lean, you got time to clean. You're on shift, goddammit. Me, I'm just gonna look at some of these stupid ass videos I got recommended to me. Most of them being Dark Side Phil and fucking Artosis and a little bit of Gordon Ramsay, and just kind of chill for an hour. I don't know, maybe even edit this video too. Alright, so it's been 2 hours and 18 minutes. I got a little distracted. I was playing some Halo and watching some stupid YouTube videos. So let's see what they look like. Now, they don't look like they poofed up, but they did. And you can feel them, and they feel really nice. And they're slightly bubbly. They're still a little bit warm. They poofed up pretty good, actually. Let's raise this all the way up to the top here. Just be careful when you do this. You don't want to rip this. There we go. Alright, we just want to start from the top, so I'm going to grab this top one here. And you can kind of just tell when they're poofed up really nice. See, look at these. These are really good. They're nice and big compared to what we had. Like you saw, they were just like about probably yay big on here, and now they're really nice and big. These are going to push out really great. Now, if you feel the top of them, they're nice and smooth. They're not hard anywhere. If you look at them right now, you'll see that the bottom ones are pretty nice too. I'm a little slow, so by the time we get down here, these are going to get dried out from the air. So we want to go pretty quick. So I'm going to grab some of these trays. I need 7 more. So 2, 4, 7 here. Put these over here. Now just be careful if you're working underneath stairs that you don't hit your head on the side of the wall. I've done that a couple times before. Alright, so basically we're going to have some more vegetable oil. Again, you can use olive oil if you want to increase the price of everything and lose some profit. You want to have a little sponge in here. Now we're going to sponge out this whole tray really good with vegetable oil so it's nice and coated. Now what the vegetable oil is going to do is when it cooks, this is what it's going to give the nice crispy bottom underneath. Now we want to take one of our dough. Now if you sprayed it real good, look at how nice it just comes up. Plop it right on there. You're going to get your dough docker ready too, because we're going to need that. Now when it's right here, you're going to push it out from the middle a little bit, pushing down and outwards. You're going to get some bubbles all over the place. See the bubbles here? Not a big deal. Once you push it out from the middle a little bit, you want to really focus on those sides. We want to get it where it's a little thicker in the middle and a little thinner on the outside. If it's real thin in the middle and real thick on the outside, obviously you're going to have some issues when you're making it. And then you just kind of keep pushing it out. Now, if you want to trick your boss, what you can do is put a little bit less vegetable oil on it. That way it doesn't shrink back up to the little smaller than the pan and you don't have to do as much work. But obviously that's retarded, and we've had somebody do that before, try and trick us like that. It doesn't come out as good. So you want to put a decent amount of vegetable oil on there and just kind of work at it. Once you got it spread to a decent amount, you can see it's starting to get a little thinner up here, and it's still nice and thick on the sides. Like you can see the difference here. Like look how thin this is starting to look. You can just push your dough around though. Just push it all over the place. Once you got it to a decent size over the tray, look, you can see I'm mostly up the tray, mostly on the sides. I could use a little bit more up top, but that's not a huge deal. You want to take your dough docker, go left and right, up the whole tray, and then up and down a little bit. put some little bits of holes in here. Now the holes that we put in here with the dough docker are to let the air out of the dough. If you have a bunch of air in the dough, obviously it's not going to cook so good. Now when you got it most of the way done, which I think it's fine like this, basically when you recook it up, you're going to heat it up and roll it out with the dough docker anyway. This should be good. Now as you can see, we're still relatively thick in the middle. I'm a little thicker on the side, but still relatively thick in the middle. No real thin spots besides up there, which isn't a big deal. And we're pretty much good to go. So I'm just going to keep doing this with all of them. I'll show you one more here. Put this on the rack. Right up there at the top. Get another one, do it one more time. And then once we get to the half sheets, I will show you from those as well. Those are even easier. That's why we do the full sheets first. So I'm going to do one more full sheet. Again, push it from the middle. Push on the outside a little bit. Strap it around. Don't be afraid to pull it. Dough's not going to do anything bad for you. Don't be shy. The only problems you can have are, again, getting it thin. Now, if you made the dough really shit, like if you when we were doing the hand kneading or whatever the fuck it's called, if you made it really thin there, like you can see the spot up here, which again, it's just kind of coincidence that it's up at that corner, but it would be fucking, you could see the hairline cracks and all the thinness in the dough itself. So you can see just like a little bit of thin in here, but it's not so bad. So fix that. And your hands are obviously going to be full of oil when you're doing this as well, so don't be shy. Pull it out with the dough docker. Up and down. Pull it a little bit more. Spread it a little bit more. And then that's it. Put it on the tray. And now the trick. Now the reason why I'm doing it from the top first, even though that's not first in, first out, is because I can take the little sheet paper here and I can pull the sheet paper down over the rack as I'm going. That way the top stuff doesn't get dried out. And then you just keep going from there. So once I get to the half sheets, I'll show you guys. Alright, so all the full sheets are done. These are the easiest ones. You'll start to see that the top's starting to get a little crusty here. That's because I'm a little slow at doing this, and that's from it sitting out in the air. So same thing, we're going to take our half sheet tray, slather it up really good with the vegetable oil, and take one of these bad boys. You can see, you'll see it breaking apart like this. This means it got too crusty from the air, but it's still good. I mean, if you left it out for like an hour and it was like this, I'd be a little concerned. But if it's just been half an hour, 40 minutes, whatever, it's not too bad. It's not going to hurt anything. It'll cook up really nice in the oven still. But basically, just left and right, get it on the tray. And look how quick that is. Really simple, mostly the tray. And again, take the dough docker and just go left and right with it, and then up and down a little bit. And then that's it. That's how you make sheets. And once I'm done with these, then we're done with them for the day. And we don't have to worry about them for probably one day. So it's Friday night. Look how much shit we already sold. We have what? One half sheet left, one half sheet, and 2, 4, 6 full sheets left. So I had to make another rack tonight. But the last thing I wanted to mention is the length of time of how long the dough stays good. The dough stays good for about 3 days. You can tell it goes bad 2 ways. First, if you smell it, you can smell the bottom and it fucking reeks like alcohol because the dough itself ferments. And the second part is you can start seeing the little black specks in the dough too, especially on the round balls. That's dead yeast in the dough mixture. But this is the video. Hope you all enjoyed it.